Is the Halloween Ends trailer delayed? How's it going, guys? As always, my name is Jimmy Champane, and if you like monsters, slashers, pretty much any movie shot during, set during, or inspired by the 1980s, this is the channel for you. I'm gonna start this video off by giving you a huge thank you. I came back after 4 months, I posted a video. I honestly had no idea how it was going to do. I felt like it was a good video, and you guys showed me that it was. It got great views. I really appreciate that you guys came back, and there's a ton of new people here. And if you're new and you haven't subscribed yet, it would be awesome if you help me out by hitting that red button and setting your notifications to all. I'm like this close to 50K, and I'd really love to get there before the end of the summer. But starting out with Blumhouse here, I went and I saw The Black Phone in theaters on Sunday. I didn't get a screening for this one or anything like that, and I loved it. I tweeted right when I got it out that it felt like a trick getting a horror movie this good just seemingly out of nowhere in the middle of the summer. It's truly great from top to bottom. I was bummed when Scott Derrickson left Doctor Strange 2 back in the day before we even knew that Sam Raimi was going to be involved. I was like, shoot, because I really liked Doctor Strange, but I've actually made videos before where I complain about directors making great horror movies and then getting put in superhero jail, which I'm sure they don't see it that way because they can get their name out there, they can get rich, they can play with these huge action franchises, but the way I see it is superhero jail because we gotta wait for them to get bored of that and come back to horror. There are plenty of examples out there, but I was glad that Scott Derrickson seems to be one of the first to come back from the superhero jail, as it were. And yeah, he basically left to direct The Black Phone, and since it was announced and Jason Blum tweeted so many times how excited he was to release it, I have been stoked to see this movie. I actually had a screening lined up back, I think in February, and then they delayed the movie till June, which seemed crazy at the time because, you know, it's releasing around Lightyear, which isn't doing so hot, and Top Gun, and all these other big movies, but it's doing really well in the theaters, and I think it completely deserves it because this feels like it's spiritually linked to his other stuff like Sinister and The Exorcism of Emily Rose, but this one speaks to me at such a deeper level because it's a masked killer, and Ethan Hawke does such an incredible job as the villain, the grabber. He's got multiple different masks in the movie. He's scary, and you know he's a good character because he remains scary even though you never, as far as I remember, actually see him kill anyone. You see a lot of kidnappings, and this is where I feel like only Scott Derrickson could have directed this movie because he does his classic like grungy, dirty film style of it that almost feels documentary-like an older movie. It reminded me of Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, like that dirty look. That's what you see when the kidnappings happen, and then it fades to black and it like punctuates those moments super well. I thought that was awesome, and the kid actors for the most part do a great job. And if you've ever heard me talk about movies, I'm super critical of kid actors just because, I don't know, they don't always sell it for me, and I guess that's harsh, but that's just the way I see movies. It takes me out a lot of the time when their performances aren't delivering, but here like 99% of them absolutely nailed it. And Madeline McGraw was by far the best, I think, which is kind of crazy because she's like the secondary main character, and I loved that her premonition power, her like dreams of the future, never really got corny. They used it for comic relief, and she carries it like so well. It was really hard not to just like enjoy the movie because I was never falling out of it because the kid acting was so great. Anyway, getting back on track here with the news story, I was really excited to see that Blumhouse intro, you know, that classic intro where it's the room, you see the chair flying around, you see those little girls in the corner. It's a really cool little intro to the point where they made a Halloween Horror Nights maze out of it in the past, and I really liked it. But now we got this new intro, and right in the beginning, front and center, standing behind a tree is Michael Myers, and you can kind of see it pretty well in the YouTube version that they released because they are obviously excited about this new intro. This is the first time they're showing it off, but on the big screen at the movie theater, it was just like right there, like front and center, Michael Myers behind the tree. I think that's really cool. I tweeted this last week, but I've seen a lot of hate going around because Blumhouse, I'll talk about this in a different video, they're allegedly maybe working on a Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, and there was just so much hate from the like horror critic world where they're like, this is too good for Blumhouse. I disagree with that entirely. I'm not going to pretend they're a perfect distributor or anything. I think that actually comes down to the fact that they just produce so much content. Like they make theatrical movies, they make indie movies that don't end up in theaters, they make Amazon Prime movies, which are like Fear Street, where it's a glorified TV show. They're doing a lot of stuff, and also another reason I think their stuff doesn't always hit every single time is because they give so much creative control to the directors and the writers. You know, they don't usually step in and get involved. Even when it seems things are going not the best, they'll let that director finish out the movie and release it as they intended, and I appreciate that. And just off the top of my head, they have released some really good movies, and even the ones where I'm not a huge fan of the franchise that came after, like The Purge, for example. I love that first movie. I thought it was a really cool home invasion slasher, and when they use lower budgets like they do with those movies, it makes the directors really think outside the box and stretch that budget and do cool things with it that you wouldn't see if they had tons of money to throw at it. I mean, as much as I hate to admit it, Halloween Kills is a great example of too much money being thrown at these movies and doing all this crazy stuff at the cost of the story. I think that's what happened with Halloween Kills, and even looking at another Blumhouse production, Glass. M. Night Shyamalan came back with Split. It's one of my favorite horror movies ever, one of Blumhouse's best easily, and then he comes back with Glass where he has way more money to work with, and yeah, that movie's not great. I just don't get why people are being so hard on Blumhouse when they've been putting out consistently great horror for a long time now, and while they miss sometimes, I don't think it's fair to expect perfection out of every studio. And if you're that willing to just drop an entire studio based on one movie you didn't like, that's a little bit crazy to me, and I think you should look inward and try and figure out why that is, because that's a horrible way to look at movies, in my opinion at least. Anyway, Blumhouse's new intro is up on YouTube. There's a ton of Easter eggs in there, like Puka I saw for a frame, and there's also the cowboy hat from the Forever Purge. It's just funny seeing all these different Blumhouse productions because they're so different coming together in this cool new intro. And hopefully in the future we get another Blumhouse intro haunt at Halloween Horror Nights where we can see Michael Myers go up against Vince Vaughn from Freaky, and then both of them have to fight the Grabber. That just sounds really cool to me, and it's perfect for a haunted house. Next up, let's talk about Halloween Ends trailer, because here we are in July now and the trailer still isn't here. Universal is shocking me a little bit by switching things up from Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. You know, I was surprised to see that it didn't come out in June because they even stuck to their marketing schedule they used for Halloween 2018 once things started spinning back up with Halloween Kills, even after they delayed the movies. So I just assumed, like I said the last time I talked about this, that they would follow the precedent that they already set, but they're switching things up. Now, a lot of people are talking about this as a negative thing, like they have something to worry about, but that doesn't really make sense to me because the trailer is generally like the first thing you can put together for one of these movies. Like, we've seen teasers come out for movies, especially horror movies, while they're still being filmed, because you just get the dailies, you apply the audio, you do a quick color grade on them, and you can put the scenes together and make any trailer you want. So for all the people out there who are kind of making a doom and gloom scenario out of this, I think that's a little disingenuous personally, and I don't know, I just think you're jumping the gun big time on that one. I think what's really going on here is that Universal is realizing that they kind of have to recalibrate and start paying attention a lot more to how they market movies. It's not just Universal, it's everyone, because before everything shut down and theaters almost went away, which was a crazy time that I'm glad that didn't come true. That's great. I'm so happy that there's still movie theaters. Before, you would release a trailer really early, you'd pepper in some clips, a new full trailer in between the teaser and all those clips, you'd spoil the entire movie, and then when it came out, people would go see it. But now, people are looking at the landscape and they are really voting with their wallets. They won't just go see anything, and you have to market things to people a lot closer to when they actually come out, because unless you're a Marvel movie, a DC movie, or I guess Top Gun Maverick, which currently is my favorite movie of the year, you're gonna have a tougher time getting people to come into the theater. And I think Universal is being a little overly cautious here by holding back the trailer this much and even a poster, but I think it's smart to be a little overly cautious because, you know, they screwed up, in my opinion, with the release of Halloween Kills by releasing it at the same time on Peacock. We saw how much money it made in theaters in addition to being on a streaming service that you could pay like $3 or $4 for to get a subscription for a month and watch Halloween Kills day one. People rejected that idea and went to the theater for the most part, but if they never did that Peacock release in the first place, the box office for Halloween Kills would have been much, much higher. And I will take that opinion to my grave. I can't call it a fact because it didn't happen, but I'm like this close. It's like a 99% fact opinion of mine that that movie would have done a whole lot better if it released in theaters. And I said this before it came out when the decision was made. It cheapens the brand, it cheapens the movie. When people see stuff that goes straight to streaming, they don't think of it at a theatrical scale. Like, it immediately starts to feel like a made-for-TV plus movie to a lot of people, and I'm being real, myself included, because if it had any reason to be in theaters, it would be in theaters. Like The Black Phone, for example. That's a great movie I just talked about. I really enjoyed it. If that movie was set to come out in 2020, they would have just dumped it to streaming like they did with Freaky. We see how it worked out with that movie, because I don't know, if they had released Freaky a little bit later, like held on to it for another year and put it in theaters with a really good marketing campaign, I think that movie would have done pretty damn well. I mean, it's a slasher movie with great kills, and it brought back Vince Vaughn to be the slasher for a big chunk of the movie. Like, the intro to Freaky is one of the best slasher scenes I've seen in a long time, and Universal just wasted it by making it a rentable movie. So yeah, people are a lot more fickle with their money right now, and these studios have to adapt and start marketing their movies better. So as for when we'll see this Halloween Ends trailer, I still don't think it's gonna be too long. I would guess probably towards the middle end of July, maybe even the beginning of August. That feels like a great time for a teaser to me. Releasing it in June has worked before, but there's definitely like a huge gulf that happens. Like, the big trailer, the big teaser, I mean, comes out, people get really excited about it, and then the hype dies down a little bit, it stays down towards the bottom. You can see this on Google Trends. And then when the big trailer comes out around July or early August, the hype goes even higher, and then it kind of maintains it while it slowly descends as we get closer to the movie. So if they shift everything forward just a little bit more and release the teaser in July or August, and then release the full trailer in the middle of September, I feel like that's going to pay even bigger dividends for them than it would if they followed their original marketing scheme. And hopefully, since they're learning and changing things up, they realize that you don't have to spoil the entire movie before it comes out. I remember how devastated I was knowing that the scene they released from Halloween 2018, where Laurie has her back to the door and Michael slams his hand through the window of her front door and kind of starts choking her out, was towards the end of the movie. Like, while I was watching Halloween 2018 in Salem, Massachusetts early, I was like, when's that scene popping up? And then I realized that the movie was quickly approaching the end, and I was like, oh, that scene that was released was from the end of the goddamn movie, and things just got worse from there. At least with that movie, they reshot the whole ending, so they used a lot of the stuff that they reshot in the trailers, so you saw stuff that wasn't actually going to be in the movie, and I kind of like that. And Halloween Ends is getting reshoots, so that could happen this time around as well. My point is, I think Universal realizes now how big of a franchise Halloween is for them, and they're probably setting themselves up to want to keep this franchise, knowing how well Halloween Kills did, even with that simultaneous Peacock release. Like, they're sitting there like, we're gonna have to renegotiate with Trancast after this movie comes out, and we want to get everyone on board, so we're gonna be very careful and make sure we market this movie right.